So I think we've got a good amount of people already inside, ready to ready to go. So I just do want to do a really quick introduction. So Jason and Damaris, they were with us at one of our events talking about their DIY build. So they built their own tiny house and they talked about the process during the event. And we wanted to have them on here again to do the same thing and but get a bit more in depth about the whole process. So if you guys are interested in DIYing your own tiny house, you're really going to enjoy this one. Yeah, so take it away.
All right, so we're going to upload our presentation here and get started. Hope everyone's having a good morning.
Thank you all for coming from wherever you're at.
Here we go. Let's get that going. Okay, very good. All right, so Sustainable Sunsets is Damaris is Nyko.
That's me.
And myself, Jason is Nyko. And this presentation is called Living the Tiny Dream. So there's about 10 highlights that we're gonna hit here during this presentation. And what are some of these?
So we're gonna talk about how you can envision your tiny dream. Excuse me. It's important to think about what it means to start from scratch. We'll talk about what we did when starting from scratch, finding plans that we loved, and then we ended up changing our plans. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what you can do for your tiny dream, figuring out a budget. And also, when it's DIY, you got to pay for the materials. We're going to talk about those materials, get into kind of a little deep dive on what the cost is.
And before we move on to the next slide, this just shows Damaris and I with our dog Bessie in our empty one-bedroom apartment that was up in Massachusetts, getting ready to come down to Florida to start our tiny house building project. So the next slide here, making tiny living a reality. These next points we're going to discover is what funding options there are, finding a place to build, finding a place to park it, finding and getting the trailer, and being ready to make major adjustments, because flexibility is the key throughout this whole process.
And here we are in Pennsylvania picking up our trailer after the trip that we took to go get our trailer. We're going to talk about why we chose that trailer, and let's get started.
All right. So a little bit about us. We're Jason and
Damaris.
We've been married 13 years.
Next month.
Yeah. And we love sunsets and spending time outside together. We've been working together for quite a while, doing various projects and secular work. And we decided to start Sustainable Sunsets mainly because
we knew the struggle. We started less than 2 years ago, well, over 2 years ago with our tiny home endeavors, but our actual build started less than 2 years ago. And we knew there's a lot of information out there, and we thought, hey, can we help people kind of take a little bit out of the noise, not make it so loud, and simplify and figure out what really helped us out of all of those things. And we want to help other DIYers like you get ready to start building your tiny home dream. And that's why we thought of creating Sustainable Sunsets.
Yeah, we wanted to share with everyone that's interested in this type of a project some of the things that can help streamline the whole process. And so we wanted to share that knowledge of what we learned with, and obviously it is according to the area that we live in, which is Central Florida. But there are some methods and some common issues that we had to address and be proactive about that will work across the board, no matter where you're building your tiny house. So one thing we wanted to say in getting into this presentation is you're probably going to have a lot of questions. We want to try to answer what we can at the end. We're going to leave some time for that. But also, we realize that this is a very surface introductory
Kind of a crash course in an hour.
of some of the struggles we went through and some of the things that went into the thought process of taking the dream of living in a tiny home and getting the ball rolling and getting it into a reality. So we're just going to share some of the issues that we dealt with and the solutions that we found as we go along. So a little bit about our house, our tiny house on wheels, Little Bitty.
Yeah, so Little Bitty is, as you can see, we have a ice white, polar white here, metal siding. So it's a 26 gauge prestige rib Galvalume siding that we got from a local metal roof factory. And then we got some cedar accent, cedar trim, kind of inspired by the home that we fell in love with, that we wanted to imitate their plans. So we just gave it a little bit of this Nyko twist. So we had fun with that accent for sure. So we have 2 entries. We have like a living room entry to the left and a bedroom entry to the right. And you'll see there we have 8 windows. So and 2 doors with the blinds so that we can be able to close them up when we want some privacy.
Yeah, and besides the doors, only the 2 bottom windows open. All the ones on top are fixed windows. Also, if you notice on the tires in between are chalk locks, which keep the house stable while you're in place. And so what is Galvalume?
Yeah, so it's a mix of steel, aluminum, and zinc.
So
So
it's
a nice sturdy material. We have that on our roof as well in a blue color.
very good. It's 28 feet long. 8.5 feet wide is the trailer. The trailer measured in at 106 inches, but the or was it 102? 102. 102, but it's actually around 9.25 feet probably from side to side. By the time you factor in the siding
In our light.
and a rain screen and the lights. It is just under 13.5 feet high from the ground to the very peak of that gable, that very 112 pitch gable.
And on that point about it being about a little over 9. So the trailer itself is 8.5, but we did go over here in the States for anything under 10 feet wide, you need some sort of permit, which is really cheap depending on the states, less than $15-ish. If you want to travel within the state, it's cheaper. If you're going to travel to another state, you pay per state, but it was something that we were willing to do just to get more room. That's why some tiny homes you most likely have heard of are about 10 feet already to start with, because you can do that for pretty inexpensive.
Reasonable transportation permitting. So a few details also of what you can see in the pictures in the front of the trailer here. You have where it shows the hitch, right above it is a small box that we built to hold the propane tanks, and they're going to be connected to that tankless water heater, which is there. They're just not presently connected, but those are the water pipes, the cold in and the hot out. A light on the front and our sub panel. We used a 3R box so we could keep that mounted on the outside. In the middle picture, we can see right to the left of the bottom window is the vent for the energy recovery vent. Then you see some other vents for plumbing and the dryer, clothes dryer. And in the right picture, you can see our mini split, the shut off right to the right of it for the AC, and a very far right circular outlet is for an RV plug. If we wanted to use a generator or be at a RV park, we could plug into that. Otherwise, the main power is going to go into the sub panel directly, which is in the left picture. It's just going to hook into that. So there's two options for powering our tiny house. All right. So starting from scratch, what does that mean?
Yeah, so because there are so many options when it comes to tiny home living, you could obviously go with a used home, a brand new home, get all of your customizations. You could go with a shell. But we decided that because of funds and customizations, our desire to make it our own and go through the experience, and also, of course, because of funds, that we were going to do it all ourselves from scratch. So from the trailer up, that meant learning every single thing about building.
Yep, labor is expensive, but with our health and age, we thought we could tackle it. We obviously, all of ourself is not all of the story, because we definitely at a few phases along the way got very important assistance from friends and family.
Yeah, we knew that we had family. For example, my dad's a cabinet installer. He knows how to build cabinets, and my stepdad has experience with electrical. So we knew that with those two aspects, we had help. So definitely use your sources wisely.
Mhm. So if you're gonna jot a quick note about starting from scratch, you could think of it like baking a cake. You know, homemade cake from scratch means you know every single ingredient that's in there because you had to hand pick it and measure it out yourself. That's what it is. It's not a box cake. There is no kit. We did look into getting a shell made, but it was even over the budget of the money we had at the time to get the shell built for us. And that was only one quote we looked into. We didn't shop around too much on that because quickly we understood with the cost of materials, it was going to be much better for us and in our present situation to tackle this project together.
Yeah. And being flexible, as we talked throughout about being ready to make major adjustments as soon as you get with deciding that you want to go tiny, you have to be flexible and realize there's going to be things that change it up, and prices go up, and your budget on time and your budget with money. So expecting all of those things to change. But if you're doing it with someone that you have fun with, my best friend here, so we laughed, we cried. Sweat equity is a real thing. And
Blood equity.
blood equity, yeah. So let's a little bit about this is the property where the tiny house is at right now. You can see in the back, our friends are he's an arborist, so he has a tree company, so he has this huge property, 10 acres that we're on. And we were able to fence it in to keep it away from the goats getting in our property because they were jumping on our trailer. And that wasn't the best for us to be able to get our build going, but they are great. The goats are great to pet and stuff before and after, and during our build, there's even a
They have a
donkey.
few cameo appearances in this
Yeah.
presentation. One note about the picture on the right is the header that Damaris is showcasing here is it was something we learned about trailers when you're choosing one to try to get square fenders, because they're not really built. Fenders on trailers aren't really built to handle the full weight of a wall sitting on top of them. So you can notice the two small blocks of wood on the front and on the back of the fender is actually supporting the whole weight of the wall, because it stands about 3/4 of an inch taller, or maybe a half inch taller than the whole fender. So, something to consider of the design of your trailer. We can get into trailer discussions a little more later. So that's what we did. We decided to start from scratch from the very beginning. So we had to consider these various steps that we're going to get into more now.
Yeah, we got 4 steps. So the first step is figuring out where you're going to build it. Before we left Massachusetts, we had a friend find out for us that there's this property, 10 acres, and they're likely going to let us use it. So So that's what we did. So it's definitely something you need to know, if you're gonna DIY, where you're gonna build it. We're gonna talk more about that.
And we can see in step 2, the goat that we affectionately call Maple is trying to live in our tiny house, but she can't. So you need to know where you're going to park it, where you're going to live in it. It brings peace of mind if you're going into this whole process. Where am I going to build this? Where am I going to live in it? And then step 3,
How to pay for it in this budget. It's definitely important to find out what the funding options are, what the cost of things are, and what we're gonna provide are 2022, 2023, some 2024 prices. So that's gonna be different. You're starting now. So definitely do as much research as you can.
right? And then being novices at building, I have a slight, I have a little bit of a background in painting, drywall repair, concrete construction. Damaris helped her dad with cabinet building growing up and installation. So it's not that we hadn't used tools before, but we never built a house before ourselves.
Yeah, we've been on construction projects before, right? Like volunteer construction projects. We've been in big groups throughout the years, and we know what it looks like, but never having started it from the trailer up before. So,
all right. So as far as finding the plans that we loved, well, after 4 years of watching tiny home shows, particularly this one,
yeah.
watched more tiny home shows than I did. This was the model we really liked, both of us, we really loved. And why do you love this model?
Yeah, this one wasn't featured on any show, but this one was built in 2017. And I actually had a friend tell us, oh, have you seen these other friends on Instagram? They have this home and they also sell their plans. And it was just the perfect timing. It was April, May of 2022, when we knew our family situation was changing. We needed to come and move back to Florida from New England. So I looked at this, I saw it, I saw the inside, there's a closet. It was just like perfect. So turns out these friends that built this home were actually friends of mine. I met them in 2008 or 9 in South America. So they're like world travelers, and we met and kind of kept in touch a little bit, but lost touch. And I saw their house, and it was awesome. It was like, this is definitely it. So we bought the plans, and then shortly thereafter, they contacted us, and we decided this was what we're going to go for. We chose the trailer based on these stats here, and we went with even our lumber order was
Lumber
based,
package was
our
based
lumber
on
package.
this, yeah.
Until
we learned about passive house design. We knew that we were going to be living in Florida and massive amount of humidity as a result of afternoon rains and just the hot, sticky conditions that we know all about in Florida. So Damaris was getting into Ethan Waldman's podcast. What was it called?
Yeah, I think you were getting into it, and because you had told me about that book, and then I started listening.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was while we were still in New England, and we listened to it's called Tiny Lifestyle podcast, and it's amazing. Like, we recommend it for anybody in the beginning phases, even throughout, because he talks about tiny living and does interviews. But there was one particular time after we moved down to Florida. We had just got our trailer. That was the only thing we had done yet. We had family emergency and things happened. So perfect timing to run into this tiny house summit. And we learned about Isabel Nagel Bryce and the building science when it comes to how to avoid thermal bridging, which we're going to talk a little bit about. But because of the house being on metal and we're building wood studs, we decided that we were going to change everything about our build, our plans that we purchased. And yeah, so definitely recommend Ethan Waldman's podcast. Look at his interviews with Isabel Nagel Bryce.
Right. And a little bit about passive house design, from what we've understood, is the house needs to breathe. But we don't want moisture to get let in, so all the decisions being made are what's gonna help reduce moisture buildup, especially on materials like wood, that's just gonna be a habitat for mold growth. And what's gonna help any moisture that does inevitably build up escape. And so what you see here is a product by Solitex Mento 1000. It's the house wrap that we chose. And the roof wrap is,
The underlayment,
yeah, the roof underlayment. Remember what the name of it was?
yeah, it'll come to me.
Yeah, we'll remember.
Been through a lot.
But anyways, it was definitely high quality products that weren't cheap, but we feel that it's very well worth it because, as Damaris calls it, the Yeti cooler of
Yeah.
houses.
It's like this whole the building envelope is what you're talking about, right? You want to protect your home, protect your investment, and you want to keep mold out. So in this case, once we sealed the home with this and we put doors and windows in, and you could almost like feel like the suction of, it felt like a vacuum, like you were in this place that was very well sealed. So it's also because of that, you still need airflow. So that's why we decided to go with what we're going to talk about later a little bit is an energy recovery ventilator as well, because we want to keep fresh air coming in and stale air out and keep it moving.
Yep.
Hi, we're building our subfloor for Little Bitty, so I just wanted to explain where we're at. We got the floor joists here that we've attached. These screws here, 1.5 inch, and we have to go underneath the cross members to the trailer. And it's more complicated because of moisture barrier, but it's vapor open. And so it's amazing at keeping the water from coming through. So we're measuring out to keep this at 16 on center so we can insulate in between here. And we just have one left. And over here, we're going to be using a 4x4 to go through these anchor bolts so that everything's going to be really well supported to the trailer before we put insulation and sheathing and start putting bolts up.
All right, very nice. So we originally bought this trailer because we thought the best way to do it was to get one with these cavities. It's got flashing underneath the trailer, and it's got these cavities, and it's all flush cross members. And we just put some insulation in those bays and just put a floor right on top. And we thought, hey, that's the way to go. But we decided to look into it a little more, and with humidity, mold, moisture concerns, we learned a lot that we needed to create a thermal break to mitigate thermal bridging that occurs when metal and wood hit each other. Temperature changes, just like cold water in a glass in a hot room is going to suck the moisture out of the air and create little water beads and droplets on the outside of the glass. That's what's going to happen
In your home.
in your home. The wood is warmer than the metal. The metal is going to be colder in the mornings and the evenings. It's just going to, that temperature change is going to cause a lot of moisture to stick to the wood, and on the wood, it's going to be a nice habitat for mold to grow. So we have to stop that from happening. That's why we put the house wrap in between and created a subfloor. The subfloor with these 2x4s, 4x4s gives you 3.5 inches where we put R15.
We put R15.
We put R15 rock wool insulation, which is also breathable. And if it was to get wet, it would still be functional because it would, any moisture would leave it and leave out of the house wrap, and nothing would be allowed in.
Yeah.
So that creates a nice thermal break, which means the temperature won't be too extreme in between the two materials, and then you put a floor on top of that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when you mentioned about us using rock wool, we really would have liked to use natural wool, Havelock sheep's wool, but the price was significantly larger. So we did have to go with something that wasn't gonna be like full-on fiber fiberglass stuff wasn't gonna be a spray-in thing, but rock wool was the next best thing that we could find. So as was mentioned, as you see, this 4x4 wasn't gonna be there in the original plans that we bought, so this was gonna increase our subfloor, the height of our home, and being able to only get up to 13.6. For legal purposes on the road, we had to make changes to our plans.
For our plans, yeah. A few interesting statistics.
Yeah, so doing research with the National Institute of, I believe it was like safety housing, 47% of US homes have mold or mold odor. And living in Florida, we've been to many homes, included with family, where you walk in certain rooms and it smells musty. So we did not want that in our home, that we're dedicating all of our investments in. And we were really happy to do research on how to avoid that.
Yeah, and as was explained to us too, when you're in a really small space and it's 2 adults and a dog, our interior living space is 238 square feet, so there's a lot of exhales. You know, everybody's got to breathe, and there's a lot of moisture that builds up.
You're
So
boiling water for pasta,
Yep.
that's all moisture.
a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, steaming off, all that is moisture. Hot water for the dishes. You need to have a way for that moisture to get out, to not stick to surfaces, for there to be a constant flow of air so that everything stays nice and dry. And the next statistic that's interesting, and we definitely are part of the 91.5%.
Yeah, there's different statistics. There are some not as extreme. I found like 85%, but that's still pretty high. 91.5% of building projects go somewhat over budget, over schedule, or both. And we were definitely in the percentage where we went over schedule and over budget.
Realistic expectations.
We strive for,
That's what we want to pass along to everybody else, is that
try to have realistic
you
expectations.
can budget, you can plan, but there's gonna be unforeseen things that
And
come up.
that's why we have sustainable sunsets too, because we wish we had somebody to tell us like, hey, it's gonna go over, hey, you're learning this from scratch, like you don't know what you're doing, so expect it to take longer. I think one of the most frustrating things for us was we felt like, which we did hear on the videos, was like, you're gonna learn a certain skill, a trade, you're gonna do it. And just when you think you're starting to get good at it, then you have to learn something new and move on to the next skill or trade. So, you're constantly learning and applying what you learn. It's fun, but just, expect to get a little frustrated.
Let's talk about materials, DIY materials that we're going to get into the prices on the next slide for all of these different columns here. But here's just some, like we talked about, ingredients of a cake and getting your shopping list together. This is not a extremely comprehensive, but a good overview of some of the things you need to consider of what all different things can cost. So where do we start?
Yeah, so obviously the trailer, it's gonna be most likely your most expensive investment in your home. It's your foundation. And with the trailer, you need to decide the accessories that come with it. Do you have your own truck? You're gonna pull the trailer before the house is on it. And in our case, we did. We bought a truck, a used truck from family. We had to buy all of the accessories to be able to attach the hitch. To attach, it's for the hitch and to tow the trailer. And we had to get nice brakes because we wanted to be safe on the road. All of those things cost money. And then with lumber, you got your subfloor to think about how much lumber you need, how much that's going to cost. Your walls, as you can see, we have a lot of studs here in ours. We went with we overbuilt it, you could say.
Well, we did 16 on center, but then we built the walls on the rake sides in 3 different panels. So where they meet up, you're gonna have multiple studs together.
To keep it.
And then we had to factor in the windows and the doors, so that just added more.
Yeah, and your headers, and that adds weight to it as well. So always something to consider with weight, how much your trailer can handle. In our case, like you mentioned, those headers for the fenders, because you really do not want the weight of your home on laying on the fender, the metal of the fender of the trailer. So you want to put it onto these headers. So that's extra. And then your roof, we ended up doing, as we like to call it, 2 roofs, because we have our first roof, and then we put like a rain screen to protect the metal to not go directly into, not penetrating into our roof, so that there would not be a chance of leaks. So
And that actually, just to add to that point, that our roof doesn't breathe, there's no ridge vent. So because there's no ridge vent and there's no crawl space or anything in that roof, the idea behind that we understood after doing some research was to create a thermal break for the roof as well, because the less extreme in temperatures changes between the metal of the roof, even to the underlayment, what's in between is an exterior grade insulation, also by
Exterior.
Rockwool.
also Rockwool.
R6, but it's something to allow the temperature change to not be so extreme, going from the exterior and then underneath the plywood roof is R23. So we end up with R29, almost R30 in the roof by the time we're done.
Yeah, so which is plenty for Florida. And also, we had just 2 interior walls in between when we did change our plans. We decided to do a main floor bedroom and no loft for sleeping, just a little storage loft above a bathroom. So we kind of put the bathroom and the kitchen in the middle, and living room on one side and the bedroom on the other. So there's an interior wall between our bedroom and the bathroom, and then another interior wall between the bathroom and the kitchen with a barn door, and the bedroom bathroom door is a pocket door. So that's all materials you got to consider with your prices. And then with exterior materials,
The exterior materials, we found out that was going to be more worth it for the long run to go with the higher grade house wrap. The exterior insulation, we did Rockwool and the stud bays of the walls. Exterior, the roof underlayment also was a better quality. Those products, the house wrap and the roof underlayment, we got from 475, I think was the name.
well, we originally got them from a Tiny Good Thing.
Yeah, tiny good thing. And then we had to purchase a few extra things those systems, the Solitech systems definitely have instructions, and they guide you through with nice educational videos of how to install everything yourself. The exterior siding, roofing material, we all purchased from the same supplier. And the doors and windows, we shopped around and got some good deals on some things. But with the tiny house, a lot of the sizes are custom, so it's hard to find standard size windows, especially the windows.
And as you know, a tiny house is still a house, so you still need all the same things as a larger house in a smaller footprint, but you'll still need, insulation. We got an energy recovery ventilator. We also use interior weather barrier for the inside of our home as an added protection against mold. We have, all the things in your kitchen, bathroom, laundry, in our bedroom, living room, all of that, as well as plumbing and electrical, which was exponentially higher than we budgeted, like a lot. So then also there's tools, hardware, and miscellaneous things.
Yep, and so all things you would need for a construction site to make a wood house come together are listed there. And that doesn't even scratch the surface, but those are some of the things that we had to purchase as we went along. So what do these things cost?
Did we lose a slide?
Yeah. Oh, that's all right.
Okay. Yeah, so we lost a little.
So the trailer and lumber, the trailer, just to go through some of these things, I know that the trailer itself was $9,500 that we paid for to have it custom built. We had to go get it ourselves from Florida. We had to drive to Pennsylvania. We had to get our truck outfitted with a tow package with a brake controller and the hitch, had to repair it, all these different things. That trip itself, we estimated about $5,500 to go back and forth.
Stay in a hotel. And all of that.
Yeah, either way, you're gonna have a delivery fee, so it's all in what you want to do when it comes to trailers usually. The other thing would be the wood package, which was 7,000
Mhm.
for the original lumber package. Exterior materials, the house wrap, and these are pretty good ballpark figures of, like we said, 22, 23, early 24 prices. 3,000. The metal siding came to about 4,500. Our doors and windows, that's really shopping around. Really doing a lot of footwork and looking at each one individually, trying to see what we could get. $4,300. The cedar wood, the raw wood, we had to process it ourselves for the siding. I mean, for the one feature on the side, as well as the window and door trim, $1,100. Interior materials,
Yeah, so we had that insulation, the rock wool, that was pretty pricey. And that was also difficult to find. At one point, it was easier to find and then difficult to find. So something to consider when you're going through your build is also get timing on delivery and availability. The energy recovery ventilator along with the duct fence and all the extra accessories that you need was about $650. For our water filtration, we decided to go with an under the sink. Well, we went with an under the sink water filtration for drinking water, but also for the whole house water filtration. We went with a different system, and the water heater, that was about $1,000. Our appliances and all of the things for the bathroom, bedroom, living room, and in the kitchen was about $6,300. And like we said, electrical and plumbing were way up there. Electrical was about $4,000 and plumbing was about $6,000.
and that's just materials. Usually, I mean, very little.
Part of that was just getting some help. We did have a few helpers get us into some electrical work that came from Orlando, and then we had friends come in and help us with plumbing.
And so part of the tools and hardware prices, we also factored in NOAA certification membership. We got a Black Friday special that was $1,500. That's been very, very useful. Free consultations throughout our process. They've coached us in many different ways. Definitely would recommend them. Educational workshops, 500 that we subscribe to, or books or different things online. The plans cost us 300. We ended up revamping them, but they were a great starting point. Our tools, hardware, miscellaneous. So if we added up all these numbers, crunch these numbers, it comes into a little bit around 63,000.
Yeah.
There you go. That's that other slide there. Okay, so the question, where to build? Where are you going to build it?
Step one, find a place to build your tiny home.
So we had to consider these questions when searching for a place to build. Are we going to use a family or friend's backyard? That's the second one. And will we have to pay for it? One thing to remember is that you should plan on it taking longer than you think. So if you're going to promise, oh, I'll be in and out in 3 or 4 months, that's all it's going to take. You might want to rethink that and not talk yourself into something. And then you're scrambling looking for a different place to build when they want you off their property. I mean, it's a family or friend, so I hope there's no arguments.
Yeah, and also like we did consider, we didn't have our own property, but if you were willing to purchase your own property, that's obviously a place where you could build it, but you have to consider those things. Are you going to have access to electrical, water, facilities, and air compressor? In our case, we have a story on the blog about why we decided not to build on the back of our family's property here, because they're in a kind of like a subdivision. And not a subdivision, but we have neighbors that are close by. So considering also when you're done with the build, are you going to be able to take it out? Maybe you could put the trailer in, but are you going to be able to move the house that's 13.5 feet high without having to cut trees down and all of that? So another option is to rent a warehouse, which we also considered, but the best part of that is that you're undercover and protected from the elements, but the definite con is the expense, and also you're likely renting that monthly, and if your bill takes longer than expected, then it hikes up the price even more
However, that might help you get it done faster
if you're not.
if you're not
Working in the
dealing
rain
with, yeah, if you're not
and
working in the
parts.
rain, if weather's not an issue. So that is something, depends on what your budget allows for. So because we needed facilities where we were working, our friends have some agricultural property and suggested, well, you're far enough away from the water well, why don't you just, a few hundred yards away, build an outhouse?
We had never thought of that before, and
we did
it's
that.
cheaper than
That's it.
renting a porta potty.
Mhm. And this is what we did.
Digging ourselves a hole,
A hole for what?
well, so we can go potty,
Oh,
potty house.
so this is where the outhouse is gonna go. We're gonna put some blocks, cement blocks on there.
Yep.
On the sides to hold it up.
Yep.
And we're measuring, see how deep it is, so I helped a little bit,
Yeah, she did.
and I was unloading the trunk with our stuff, so that we can go over to that end of the property. And grab some of those cement blocks over there.
And this is more of our outhouse building experience here. And
That
So
goat's
there-
not on the property anymore.
okay, so where to park it? Well, we did before we moved from Massachusetts to Florida. We put a down payment for a tiny home community in Central Florida. And that's where it gave us the peace of mind to know that we would have a place to bring it to. But as our project started to come together, we got an offer from the friends we were building to live right there on their property. So that's what we ended up changing our plans to.
We recommend too, if you do decide to go with a tiny home community, try to get a tour. This place was really pretty, it was great, but they had a lot of rules. And it wasn't gonna work for us. One of was that depending on their septic or sewage system that they have, they didn't want you to have a tub or a washer. They wanted you to use local and laundromat, and that was like a big thing for us because we already had a tub and had the washer dryer, and that was something that was really important to me. Renting for our entire marriage, we hadn't had our own washer dryer, so it was like, well, if we're building a house, I don't want to share a laundromat. So we decided, this place turned up for us. So when it comes to where you're gonna live, this particular video from Far Out Tiny Homes was really useful. It was from 3 years ago, and there are definitely other resources that are more current. But certain states are more tiny home friendly. You remember that a movable tiny home is not an ADU. So when we were in New England, we were looking into also going tiny even before we thought of moving to Florida and doing a lot of research and all of that. So there's also the option to rent a lot, either in an RV park. Some RV parks will accept tiny homes, some won't. And you have tiny home communities that, again, you want to do a tour, make sure that your particular tiny home plans will work for that community. And are you willing to be on a waiting list and not know if you're going to have a place when your home is done? So family or friends property is a nice option. Or you can buy property.
Yeah, you would have to check the zoning. That's where the land use lawyer recommendation comes in, because they can deal with doing the research that's needed to find out. A lot of times, a person may have to approach the zoning board and discuss what they want to do on a property to get approval. So there's a lot of footwork that needs to be done. Are you comfortable being in a gray area? So that means basically there may be options for you to live certain places where you're not illegal, but you're not really legal either. That's because they just haven't written laws that apply to your situation. So remember, depends on what kind of a foundation you have. Is it on a foundation or are you on wheels? So a tiny house the functionality is meant for full-time living, not temporary living like an RV. That's a lot heavier. There's just a lot of differences in this way of life that you have to realize that aren't quite spelled out yet across the board. So finding a place to park it. Well, what worked for us, like we said, was on friend's property, but there are other options out there. Now, next we can discuss how to pay for it. Step 3, be finding out what you can afford. So along with that, and again, this is not every solution to the funding options, but here's a few suggestions of what to consider. How much do you have in savings? How much do you have left on your credit cards?
Yeah, you can talk to the bank, see what kind of loans they offer. Sometimes they have those secured loans, which means you still have to have the funds in a savings account, but then they'll loan you more so you don't have to touch the savings. And so those are options. Those secured loans they come with interest. Unfortunately, like where we are, we can't get mortgage loans for tiny homes. So we got to look at other ways. There are store credit cards, like with these big box stores you could go with. Home Depot they do have like a home renovation type of loan that you could spend a certain amount and pay a certain amount at the month. It's different than their store credit card. So that's an option. It didn't work for us, but it might work for you. And then what did work for us is asking our local building supply, our local electrical supply for a credit. And that's like just on a monthly basis, you have to pay it off at the end of the month. Then we have generous family. So you can borrow from family, borrow from a friend. Obviously, the best way is to use your own money, savings, or work and pay as you build.
Well, everybody's situation is different. We ended up having combinations of almost all of these things that went into our build. So we finding the trailer and getting the trailer, this is your foundation. There are big differences between an RV trailer and a tiny home trailer, and we found that out from the very beginning. So what convinced us that we wanted to go with this company called the Trailer Shop, SHOPPE, from Ephrata, Pennsylvania, was just our dealings with them up front. We knew which specs we wanted, how we wanted it to be built. They were already in the business of doing tiny home trailers, and when they just sent back the estimate, I could tell by all of the details that they itemized out that they knew what they were talking about. And that's very different from just a standard trailer company that's just going to weld and manufacture you a trailer that you may ask for. They may not understand the type of a load that needs to go on top of this trailer, and
it's not a car.
all the things.
Trailer. It's not an RV trailer, right?
Right.
So we have a funny story that we won't have time to share now, so there'll be a blog about it, but maybe another time we can share funny now, not so funny at the time, of what happened with our trailer, why we had to go back to a welder a couple times. So yep, things that always come up but you don't expect, you just got to learn to laugh. So for you, make sure you shop around, find a reputable trailer making company, ask for estimates, and remember, it's your biggest investment, so get it right, the foundation of your home. We do not recommend an RV trailer and stripping it and using that, because that's meant to hold metal, and your RV is going to be a lot lighter than your home. So ours can hold 21,000 pounds, and it's in 3 7,000 axles. So they're also drop spring. We got the electric brakes, a 48-inch long tongue, 102-inch wide fenders with the flashing under the frame that we did end up drilling in weep holes to make sure that moisture also leaves, and covered that with bug screen.
Yeah, and for that price, $95.35 for a brand new trailer that was custom built to our specs, we couldn't pass that price up. That was came in a few $1,000s cheaper than others. And about the 3 7K axles with a 21,000 pound hold weight, that was very important because we didn't really have to worry too much about what we were putting on top and having to count every pound, because that was quite a bit. Now, how to build it? Again, we're novice builders, so that's something that we've had to put a lot of research into. We want to share the tips and things that we've found, and that's more future stories to tell,
Yeah,
to share. So that's what we wanted to encourage everyone to.
to subscribe to our newsletter, because as soon as you subscribe, you get that free resource guide with our top 7 resources in building our DIY tiny home. You get exclusive access to our tiny home interior video tour, also with our newsletter. And you're gonna get newsletters twice a month, so you get updates on the blog plus extras for subscribers. So this is a little sneak peek into our house. We are not quite moved in yet. We have had some issues with our friend's property, having to get permits, and we've been ready to move in though. So we're just waiting, and we just found out we'll hopefully be able to move in really, really soon. Possibly just staying temporarily on the spot that our home is in right now until the permits can get worked out. So here's our pink door. That's the bathroom door leading to the bedroom. You'll see the barn door here. That was our pride and joy. And quartzite countertop for the kitchen, and nice glass tile for the bathroom. So our contact information is on the next slide. So please check us out at sustainablesunsets.com, and we thank tinyhouse.com for inviting us. We're on Pinterest, we're on Instagram, and you can email us. And please let us know if you have any questions.
Questions, thoughts, things you want to know about, things that you've seen that you're curious what we dealt with, and we'd love to answer that for you.
Okay, so let's go and stop sharing. Thank you all for being here and for watching.
So we didn't get to catch up on these chats. Our cost all in, we can take questions now for the next few minutes, but we factored about 63 to 65,000. We're still having to pay for a few things. We estimated earlier that it'd be about 70,000. That's probably correct by the time we factor in everything, but that's with shopping for deals. The one list where we priced everything out was about 63,000.
County approval for the outhouse. So because of the property that we're on, it's agricultural property. So that was all them with they're the property owners, so they figured that out. We did consider the lakefront tiny home community in Orlando. So absolutely beautiful on the lake. Watched all the tiny home videos on it. It just didn't work for us, but they were really, really nice in being really in touch with us as well. I can't recommend a lawyer.
We haven't looked into that route yet for a zoning lawyer, so we don't have one to recommend. Rebecca says, I want to Airbnb my tiny house, and where is the best place to buy a tiny house instead of building it?
We don't have those details. We didn't go that route, but maybe someone else in the chat has some
Recommendations.
suggestions.
Yeah.
Anybody want to go on camera? We'd love to see you if you aren't too shy. So we know we're not just talking to ourselves. If you want to turn your camera on and just give us a quick question, quick shout out, any comments, we'd love to hear. Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how
Good,
are
thank you.
you?
Alrighty. Yeah, I was just really curious, when you did your outhouse, what was the depth that you had to dig down? And did you like follow code to dig it down? Or you were just like, this looks good?
We went 5 feet down.
Oh, okay.
The code that we followed, the major rule of thumb was being 250 yards away from a well.
Okay.
And
Wow.
So-
also
Okay.
water, the body of water that was.
Oh, the body of water, there's a lake in the back of the property. We're very far away from that.
Okay.
Probably a couple football fields away from that. So that was one thing that, you know, you want to make sure you're not going to spoil any water sources. And we use hydrated lime
Mhm.
over to break down the
And
waste.
Cedar.
Okay. And did
That's
you have to
under-
like, when you move full time, will you have to get rid of that? Or is that just gonna be your bath?
Oh, we're not going to use that ourselves, but
It belongs to the owner of the property, basically, so they wanted it. we built it so we could use it during our build, and they have workers come in and use it too. So it's something that they just want to keep on the property. It's far from where we're going to be moving the house. But yeah, so those are great questions. Thank you, Lizzie. We had one more. Alexei asked if we had to register our tiny home. We did. We registered it with Pennsylvania, where we originally bought the trailer. We went to the DMV there. Hey, Alexei. So we did that, and then we drove it down to Florida with our Pennsylvania tag. Then we went to Florida and got it registered, and we pay. That's part of a yearly expense, just like with any vehicle.
Get the sticker,
Yeah, so
and
you
the
have
license plate.
our final weight of our tiny. Fun question. It's probably close to 20K.
Yeah, so we talked to the original, those who we bought the plans from, and they said that theirs came in around 16,000 pounds. And we don't have a staircase inside. Ours is not set up to have a loft bedroom the way theirs was. But we do have like a quartzite countertop, and what are some other things?
The heaviest thing, probably I would say like the headers even to for
Yeah,
the fenders and the headers for our windows and
a
doors.
lot of wood in
Yeah,
those
a lot of
walls.
wood. Mhm.
The subfloor, the metal itself is not extremely heavy on the sides, which is kind of a plus, but if we were going to say what it weighs, we'd have to say around 19 to 20,000.
Mhm. Alexei, go ahead, and you had your question. You were on the computer, on the camera. Please let us know what you wanted to say.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure I have a microphone problem. Yeah, just, like with zoning, it's a little difficult to find zoning which would allow you to place tiny house on the property. So, I mean, in Florida, I mean, I know there are communities, but you're pretty much leasing the land from them. So I guess you don't really own the land. So that's
Mhm.
where the issue.
Mhm.
There's one in Melbourne, Florida, where,
Yeah, I actually visited them.
oh, you did,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean they look like they are building up still, and the owner is kind of like, there's some challenges there. I think it's a Brevard County, if I
Yeah,
pronounced that
Brevard.
correctly.
Brevard County,
Yeah,
yes.
Brave.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
But
that's so
if you've
far what
had
I.
a big fight,
Sorry?
not a fight, but a battle with trying to get the permission in that area, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I've seen mostly the I don't want to occupy you, Paul, but I've seen mostly the RV parks being converted to tiny houses, tiny
Right.
house communities. So there's one in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and yeah, I got another Zoom call.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, I never actually came across the, like you mentioned, that zoning lawyer, so it's kind of interesting because technically you'd probably, like, let's say if you want to buy a land in somewhere in Florida, and I'm in New York, so I need like some sort of a local resource to help me out there.
Mhm.
So that's why I guess. But the I think someone was asking also for a tiny house builder, and I think there was not far from that community. I think it was called Modern Tiny Living or something like that. So
Mhm.
they're nearby. So
Yeah.
they do. I mean, they're expensive, but they do like a very very high quality builds.
Mhm.
Yeah, good. And I know tinyhouse.com has a lot of resources too. Hi, Giovanni. We can't hear you, but thanks for showing your face. Oh, it still looks like you're muted.
Tiny home insurance costs, we just wanted to address that real quick. We looked into a company out of Colorado. We don't have build insurance, but after it's completed and we get our final, we're actually going for our final certificate through NOAA RDI inspections. At that point, it's about 1,500 a year, I believe,
Mhm.
to cover
Yeah, we found a nice insurance company
Mm-hmm.
that just needs a picture of our completed home, and they won't protect against hurricanes, which is typical in Florida. You don't get that, but they did have like fire and in-home like flooding and stuff insurance. So, oh, there you are, Giovanni. We can hear you now.
Yeah. Just tuning in from Whidbey Island, Washington.
Cool.
And maybe I can turn my camera on and give you a flash of where our tiny home's gonna go. So
Yeah.
in this
Ooh,
in this spot right here, I'm gonna be grading that flat where kind of looking straight into the camera. There's gonna have a flat spot there where the tiny will sit. I have a tiny shell that's the exterior's all done, interior needs completion, needs to build out, and then just up above it in that area we'll level off another spot. And we're gonna do something a little bit different, do a master cabin, so we have a separate place to sleep from the tiny, giving both me and my partner different places to work from in the
cool.
daytime. So and originally there was a double wide trailer right here with a stick built addition to it, and it was beyond doing anything with other than tearing it down, so we tore it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cool spot.
Well,
Beautiful. Congratulations.
That's a beautiful property.
Beautiful property. Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. 5 acres. It has a shop on it
Woods. Wow.
back in the woods there, and this is a little casita that was here,
Oh, cool.
came with it. So we're going through it, doing a little remodel of that too. So it's a tiny home of
Renovation.
its own.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when do you
Yeah.
think you're gonna get your shell delivered?
It actually is sitting on our friend's property nearby, and
Okay.
we're waiting for a tree guy to show up. We're gonna have look at dropping some of the trees here. The alders and the hemlocks are known for falling when you look at them wrong, and so we're gonna be taking a bunch of those out, because where for the area that we're parking the tiny, so we don't have them falling on. And then there's a couple areas that we don't want to really log it, but there's a couple areas of cedars that if we thin them out, we can create a driveway sweep going through from the shop to the main driveway in, and those will allow us to kind of offset some of the costs of the tree removal that has to take place. And then it's got these glorious cedars right here
Yeah.
that are just
Cedars,
it's
beautiful wood.
just
And the smell must be incredible. I wish you could send that through
Uh,
here.
right. You see all those blocks there, the concrete blocks?
Mhm.
That's what was holding the tiny,
That
or
might-
holding the mobile home up. And eventually right over there in the trees in that area will be my outdoor kitchen and pizza oven. So that is my foundation for the pizza oven.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Again, reusing things, that's what we capitalized on, as well as seeing what we could repurpose and reuse. I mean, we weren't allowing it to hold up progress, but it is exciting to repurpose things as you go along.
Yeah, we're pretty blessed up this way. I moved up from the Bay Area about 3 years ago, but in Seattle we have a Restore Second Use, and then there's another store in the Ballard section of Seattle called Ballard Reuse, and they just it's just great. You can go through and find all kinds of fantastic things. I have cabinets and everything for the tiny build out. I have teak hardwood flooring, all kinds of fun stuff that I've been sitting on it for the longest. Funny story, we started with the intention of building community with 3 other couples. 20 acres, maybe just a mile or two from here. That kind of imploded with the difficulties of putting all those different people together. And so we midstream changed horses, boom, ended up over here on 5 acres. So we're forging ahead with our dream. We just had a little delay.
That's all right.
Hey.
That's what it's all about.
Living the dream.
Right.
Expecting delays, but you see little bits of progress and it keeps you going throughout.
True.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
All right, we got a few other questions. We
Andy,
appreciate it.
turn his
Yeah.
camera off. See if Andy's back
Do
on.
you think?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne.
Ciao.
Hey.
Checking in and out all day.
All right.
Hey, from New Jersey.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing up there in New Jersey?
Good. So I went down to Lakefront also and talked to them, and I'm looking to Airbnb also. you know, especially in that Orlando area. So I spoke to them and they had a tremendous amount of rules. He does that. He Airbnbs down there. He
Right,
has,
got about 6 or 7 of them there.
yeah, I thought it was more than 10, but he's not, he won't let you do that. So I went around to the different mobile homes and trailer parks and RV parks, and there's quite a few in the area, believe it or not, but the price for the lot varies amazingly. I mean, you can go from 400 to 1,200 a month. It's amazing how they do that. So I find now you're going to Melbourne, you said?
No, we're gonna be staying in the Central Florida location near Daytona.
Oh, okay.
Not in Daytona, but in that general vicinity.
Right, right. Well, there are some new communities around Orlando that are being built right now that are for tiny houses, and they are allowing Airbnbs. And I was surprised about that, but they're fine with it. So you really have to do your due diligence for the park. That's just so important. You know, you're right about the rules. Some just don't allow it, some do allow it. So I just saw a couple questions about it. That's what I'm looking to do. Just honestly, put 5 out there, and just that's what I want to do after I retire. So, you know, now buying a used versus building your own, one that's already NOAA certified. I've seen some, and some have been really badly built. But under tiny houses, they send me their listings regularly about used ones up for sale. And through Tiny House, I was able to find someone that also delivers, and someone you can actually do the entire process on Tiny House. And Chelsea's very helpful, actually. She's very helpful in finding what you want. I'm not climbing up to a loft. I want my bedroom on the first floor. I explained it to her. She's like, she only sends me those. And, you know, you can really narrow it down. So very, very helpful on the Tiny House website. I got all my information there. So I'm ready to buy and build. So, or buy in place. So
Buy in place, yeah. There's a lot of things, you know, if you're looking for Florida, again, the humidity mitigation, so, you know, those things that are put in place to try to keep the moisture out is critical for it to last you any period of time. Otherwise, you're going to be, you know, dealing with a lot of renovations throughout, and then you're not going to be able to rent it because you're going to be working on it. So
yeah, as I recommend, if you are going with a used one, look behind your cabinets, look under your sinks, look as in between things, nooks and crannies as possible, under beds. A lot of mold growth under the mattress. So watch out for those things. Definitely recommend. Thank you, Andy.
they're saying if you were to buy a used one that was built with structural insulated panels is also a good way to go. So you could find out if that's the way that your prospective one was built with what they call SIPS panels is a nice way.
Yeah. Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for putting your camera on. Nice to see another live face there. How are you?
I'm good. I tuned in a little late. I knew I should have set an alarm, but it didn't. It didn't happen.
Where are you from?
No, but I've been listening in from Las Vegas, Nevada. But I actually have property on the Oregon coast that's where the tiny house will go. And this will be my first one. I've been obsessed with them for the last like 10, 12 years. But we have this property, so we bought it about a year and a half ago. It's our first venture into real estate, and what I loved about it is there's just the perfect spot for a tiny house. There is, and I forget that it's tiny, like 600 square. It's just under 600 square feet is the current cabin that's there on the property, but it's not conducive. Like the use of space is so inefficient. Like, so I either gut that or I just build, you know, something perfect for us on the back side of the property. But it's on a peninsula surrounded by a creek on the ocean. So there's like a little strip of land between our creek and the ocean. So it's just surrounded by water. It's gorgeous.
Wow.
So that's where it's going. And I'm early in the stages. I do have an outline and a checklist from the county because we're technically in the county and not the city. So I do have a checklist of things to do with them. to look at first. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I've narrowed it down to a couple different types of builds that I want to do and look at and get more information on. And so I'm just trying to soak up all the info.
You going with the foundation or on wheels or skids or what are you doing?
You know, right now I've narrowed it down to container house, which talking to a contractor there, they can do it on posts. Or, you know, what do you call them? Just little footings. I won't need an actual, I won't need an actual foundation for that. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards is a container house. I have seen a few different designs of park models that have been kind of intriguing. So that's my second go-to would be something like that.
Awesome. I hope,
Yeah.
hope for you.
Yeah, container homes are really cool. I think what we
love
heard
them.
is just make sure you didn't have too much hazardous waste that was transported by the container before it was used to build a home.
Research on that.
Yeah, we actually have a really cool container home builder here in Las Vegas. There's only one, and they have this huge warehouse, and they deliver them all over the country. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. I've met with them before, and they'll ship it for me. That way I'm kind of here in person. I would love to do that. So yeah, they've given me the lowdown on like high cubes and like the whole bit. This is the kind you want. You either want brand new or single use, or like they've been really good, a really good resource for me for information. So if that's the route I decide to go and I decide to pull the trigger with a container house, I'll probably have them do it and then have them ship it.
Nice.
And what size is
Yeah.
that when you're looking at?
You know, I'm trying to be logical about it and think, okay, a 40-footer, we can get, you know, all the things we need. But I love like being super creative. And so I kind of drew out this floor plan of using like 6 20-footers and kind of making it more of like this random like Lego shape, like all single
Wow.
story, but
Yeah.
but I love creating like a grand entrance with like placing them just right so that you have the covering and the I have this whole
Maybe a courtyard in the
Yes.
middle or something.
they'll like it's like it would be almost like a triangle shape. So you'd have you'd have 2 20-footers here and another 2 here, and then right like alongside the corners would meet for the other 2 20-footers where your kitchen and living space would be.
Cool.
And then so the little between the 2 sets of 20s would be your entryway, your front door entryway. So it would be you'd have the covering over it. And anyways, I like doing that kind of stuff. Like I just want it to look unique and be really cool and something different. That's kind of
Yeah.
how I like to roll. Yeah.
If we went with that, we'd have to have a container that's just a pool, like those ones that we've seen on Instagram. Tiny House that had one where it's like an infinity pool container.
Yeah. No, these
Yeah.
guys make those. They make the
Amazing.
pools. And they do vans and stuff too. But I'm like, I don't know if I want it. Like I want to be able to stay in it for however long. You know, I don't know if
Yeah.
I could be in a van for 2 weeks, but
Great.
so yeah,
Thank
that's the thought and the plan. So I'm just trying to learn all the things from you guys.
Awesome.
We're just a little piece of the puzzle. We learn from so many other people as well as we go along.
YouTube University, we haven't graduated yet, but I mean,
Yes.
it's been the best thing since sliced bread, right? With
I love
having
it.
access to all these people watching, and also, as was mentioned, Noah. So Zach did have a question about that. Like if you're gonna go through these tiny homes, Noah is in Florida based, but you know, you can get Noah certified, and so far it's been a really great experience with them. We feel like our home has been built safely because we've been inspected, and they do these, they use their own software for camera inspections, and
They record it all as they
record
go.
everything, and
So you have a
asking
record
questions.
that's in their cloud, you know, for if you needed to resell your house, you have all of the records to go along with it.
Mhm. Yeah, we were pretty happy with that, so.
And again, their consultations, I think that process to answer that question about how is it working with them is very, very helpful to be able to just sign up for a free consultation and say, I got all these questions about this and that and the other. And for the most part, all of their inspectors have been very patient and have been very easy to talk to, easy to communicate with. So that's just been a huge bonus. It's been well worth it.
Yeah, well worth it for us. That was, I think, the best Black Friday deal we got was getting the tiny house NOAA certification through Black Friday. I think it saved us like $300 or something. So.
Mhm.
So please, if you have any more questions, direct them. You can DM me Instagram, on Pinterest, I'm there, and also my email, damaris@sustainablesunsets.com. And check out our website, our blog. We're going to be posting new things. We'd love to have you join our newsletter. Thank you so much. Thank you to tinyhouse.com, Zach and Jel, for inviting us.
Anything else that we want to end with, Joe? Oh, what's next? Will we be building another tiny? That's a good question. We've had friends ask us if we'd build them one for them.
Our parents are like, going to build one for us. Let's live in ours first for a while, I think.
Yeah.
before
We're not against the idea, but we're
we're tired.
yeah, we need a little bit before we start another one. That's about it.
So when did you
Awesome.
guys finish building your tiny house? Was it just like a few months ago or something?
Less than that. I think it was like basically officially done like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, just because we haven't been able to put in our appliances yet since it hasn't
We have
been in the
them
spot.
in this garage in this house that we're in.
So we don't
just have to-
call it done until it's
until we're
decorated.
living. I mean, but it is,
It's livable for sure.
it's very, everything's pretty much functional. We just have to hook it up. So
Well, I appreciate that you guys got on this event to talk about your build, even if you haven't really lived in it yet. And also, of course, giving your time and everything. I think Zach might want to say something as well.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, thanks you guys for taking the time to jump on here and help other people who are, I guess, following in your footsteps and whatnot. And I am interested, when is the big move-in day? Do you have it on the calendar yet?
So are we.
we just got a message from our friend, the property owner, that said, what do you think if we put in temporary septic and electrical for you to just hook up where you're at right now? And we said yes, because he actually already put in a well and ran power and a drain field in the front of his property where we're moving
Okay.
it to live in it. But the health department, there's a little holdup. So he said, oh, what if this was a temporary fix? And we're like, sign us up. So we can keep you posted on that. As soon as we find out, we can pass
Hopefully
it along.
soon, like within the next
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you guys considered, I mean, I guess power is one thing, but you could always do like a generator or something in the interim, and you could do like a holding tank and just use it sparingly and get it like cleared, or a portable holding tank or something like that for temporary.
Mhm.
But whatever you guys want.
I
Good
think that's
stuff.
what it's gonna be, their holding tank. We have the generator there, so waiting to just with the AC
Ready.
and power and everything. We are in Florida, 100-degree days, so definitely want to make sure the AC works and our
Yeah,
fan
yeah.
and things. Yeah.
He's got a pole not far from there, but it's 125 amp service.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not like the smallest, it's not an RV 50 amp service thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a little much. So
Yeah.
maybe you could I don't know if they can downgrade or whatever, put in another like panel and then like only draw
Right.
a certain amount or something, but I'm not sure.
Probably,
That's what we were gonna
Electrician.
do on the other one.
there is an
So,
electrician
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Look
Okay.
outside.
Yeah. Well, very exciting. And thanks you guys so much for sharing and everything. And I'm sure it's very helpful for people who are trying to basically follow in your footsteps and do what you guys have done and everything. So, we appreciate you taking the time to put together your thoughts and communicate it well to everybody. And yeah, and thanks, Joe, for coordinating it all and everything as
Yeah,
well,
thank
and
you,
all that
guys.
stuff.
Thank
So,
you, Joel. Thanks, Zach.
yeah, absolutely. Well, do you guys have anything else to share or anything else? Or Joe, do you have anything else before we jump off?
Just a huge thank you from me for everyone to come here and come here early morning and just be on this and support the event. So thank you.
Yep. We look forward to continuing to share what we learn as we go along with the living process. So I
Yep.
look forward to staying connected. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. We'll catch you later.
All right.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.